All right, may I have your attention, please, everyone? May I have your attention? Well, thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoy the food and the beers. It's a big pleasure to host this event tonight, and I'm really excited to have you all here to discuss San Diego's artificial intelligence and venture capital direction. We are all here to guide San Diego and find a point at which we can all move forward. And I think that's to create a more attractive San Diego for investors worldwide. We certainly have the artificial intelligence opportunities and the talent. So all we really need is to bring together the minds and the will. So many of you have already noticed that I really love to host parties. This is a smaller one. Our average is about 200 guests. So this is a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate, about 30, 40 people or so. But you guys are some of the most active people in San Diego, and that's why I invited you to come help me in this journey to make San Diego into a future artificial intelligence center. Okay, so we are brainstorming a path for San Diego to become this center, and what we're doing is for this AI VC NSD, or Artificial Intelligence Venture Capital in San Diego meeting, I want to encourage you to share your thoughts with the panel when I bring them up, because all of you have your experiences and could really help guide us. And the goal is to answer the following questions. Why San Diego? Why now? In terms of investment. So I would like to thank our sponsor, Mustafa Parak, and I would like to bring him onto the stage for a moment to talk about how Pillsbury is supporting the data science and technology community here in San Diego. And as soon as I told him about this idea, he was on board because Pillsbury really believes in this. So,
thanks, Tristen. First of all, just welcome to our firm, Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman. For those of you who are unfamiliar, we have about 600 lawyers worldwide, I think 6 or 7 different countries. I myself am in the corporate securities transactions group, technology group, excuse me. Basically focusing on helping people start, build, and sell their companies in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot within that, whether it's M&A work, licensing, funding, basically just helping you throughout the process. And then outside of that, I think we have probably about I could bucket 30 different practice groups, whether it's employment matters, patent, trademark, just litigation, which hopefully none of you have to ever deal with, regulatory stuff. So full service global law firm. Here downtown, I work closely with Christian Salomon, who's a partner here, Ryan Minerovich, and Martin Bridges as well, who's some of you may know. He's been an entrepreneur in town here for about 30 years, and so together, and I think really everybody at the firm, we like to consider ourselves more as advisors than attorneys. We get excited about seeing you succeed, and so we're more excited about that than in helping you build your business than say just charging you for a 10-minute phone call or something like that. So I would definitely encourage all of you to say hello, whether it's here or seeing you in the community, or give us a call if you have any questions, whether it's legal advice or just trying to connect you with the right people, because that's what we really enjoy doing. I will say we have a lot of events here, and this is probably the most buzz around this event than any of them that I've ever attended. It had a lot of people in our office ask us, what's this machine learning society? And we have pretty sophisticated people here. And I think it just kind of goes to show you how just much excitement there is around the technology. And I think San Diego is definitely very well positioned to be a center for it because, Qualcomm, we have a lot of former talented Qualcommers, some of whom are in this room. We have several clients that we're excited about that are focused in the industry, Yembo, Logate, and so we definitely think that we're passionate about it, and so we're excited to be part of this. And thank you, Tristen, for bringing us, helping us be a part of this. And I will say, last final thing is, so when I first met Tristen, it was at an event here, And the first thing he said to me is, when I told him I worked here, he said, "Oh, your job's going to be obsolete in 10 years by machine learning." And so I say that because, we do meet a lot of people in the industry and at these events, and it's very rare that you meet someone with this much passion about a particular industry. And he's not just here as a service provider trying to sell a service. I mean, he's genuinely passionate about it. And so, if this is your first sort of introduction with the Machine Learning Society, I would definitely encourage you to keep up with it. And when Tristen says their average is about 200 people, that's genuine. I mean, I showed up to their last event at Sanford Consortium and was blown away by the turnout and the excitement. So welcome, glad you're here, and enjoy.
Thank you. And now I'd like to share a little bit about the Machine Learning Society for those of you who have only heard about us 3 or 4 times. We're kind of everywhere recently. So I want to share with you our recent successes and some of our future ambitions. And I want to do it all in the span of 1 week, just this Monday until next Monday, just to show you the kind of activity that we're working with. So this Monday evening, I received a text from the meetup group. We hit 2,000 members. So this Monday was our 2,000 member group. And when I looked at kind of the distribution of the members, and people have been reaching out to me by email, South Africa, Russia, South Korea, all over the world, Israel. So we really are a global organization, and we've had some success in branching out to Boston and New York. And that same Monday evening, we had an event in New York City on agricultural technology. So as many of you know, the current the amount of people, the population is growing rapidly, and yet the amount of space for planting and crop development is decreasing. So we're going to need some interesting rethinking of how AI and machine learning can help, and some of these new sophisticated agricultural technologies can help us survive the next 20, 30 years and increase the crop yield. And that was the discussion that we had in New York. 250 people RSVP'd to that, so it was quite a success. And the video is up on YouTube, and I encourage you to visit our YouTube channel and watch it. So on Tuesday, we penned a deal with a very big company, Fortune like this, and we're very excited about that because we believe that this partnership of technology plus community is a new form of partnership that I think every technology company needs in order to thrive in this environment. And we hope that this alignment will bring a lot of benefit to San Diego and its technology community. So more on that later and in person. Yesterday, we confirmed the location for the first AI hackathon in San Diego's history. It's, I think, 30 or 35 days away. The backstory behind that is I was browsing the internet, and I saw that there was a AI hackathon going on with 14 cities on it. The usual: Toronto, New York, Boston, Silicon Valley, some other ones, Beijing, I think it was. And I said, wait a minute, why is San Diego not on here? Why is it not on here? That's an interesting question. So I put it on there. I persuaded and forced the organizers to put San Diego on, and I said one thing: just make sure we have a nice logo. Okay, so that was, and now we have to perform, and now we have to do it. So I actually want to bring Scalemetrics onto the stage to talk a little bit about this, because they pulled through and they've supported one of my events before, and they're going to be where we do this 3-day hackathon, which is going to be very Silicon Valley style and maybe even better. So come and tell them a little bit about this.
Okay. Right, June 23rd, 24th, and 25th, I believe, Scalemetrics is hosting the Machine Learning Society's hackathon. It'll be a 3-day event. Would love all of you to come out there. I know just kind of the high level about the event so far, but I can tell you a little bit about us. Big supporter of Tristen. Scalemetrics is a cloud host, cloud hosting facility, data center owner and operator, and here in San Diego based, born and raised. We're 6 years old, and we are actually the highest density data center in the United States today. So we have some IP, some patented technology that allows us to cool an insane amount of power. If 78 kilowatts means anything to you, in a single cabinet, right? So enough power to cool a New York City block in one cabinet. So that allows us to deploy high performance computing and deep learning workloads for the likes of some of the top social media companies that we all use every day, self-driving cars that are on kind of the forefront, things like that. So we have a GPU in the cloud. This is my pitch here. So we have a GPU in the cloud offering that we just launched, and no one can touch me on the price for it. Nobody. So if you're interested, look us up. ScaleMatrix.com, and so we would love to have you guys out for June 23rd, 24th, 25th at our facility. It's not your traditional data center, so there's actually a comfortable place for people to come work and things like that. We just opened a co-work space next door, so we're going to be using both those buildings for Tristen's event, and look forward to a great turnout.
All right, so we're now at today, and you know what's happening today, this wonderful event, which, by the way, wink, wink, this is the AI VC and SD. I'm also thinking about a life science and genomics VC and SD, and I think that's going to be really interesting for some of the people in this room, and I really look forward to launching that as well. Tomorrow, we are publicly releasing our curated speaker list. Now, this is really exciting. You see, as the founder of the Machine Learning Society and having different branches in different cities, people reach out to me and ask, hey, Tristen, can you find a speaker for us for our conference? And I've been just sending out emails to our members saying, hey, would you want to do this talk the following Thursday on AI, give a little workshop, or maybe on deep learning? And people have followed through and they've helped. And then I thought, wait a minute. We have 2,000 members. Many of them are experts. Many of the people that are not in the community will become members when they meet our experts and when they join this speaker list. So we are rolling out a curated speaker list of speakers in deep learning, machine learning, artificial intelligence, genomics, bioinformatics, other computational sciences, high-performance computing. So if you are a speaker in these fields, I encourage you to log into our platform and mlsociety.com and submit your application or your speaker resume, and I will share it with the world, and then you can share your knowledge with the world. So we want to be that conduit for people. So this is tomorrow. That's our plan. On Saturday we have our Kaggle competition. What's a Kaggle competition? It's a competition where a company posts data on the website, and about 100 or 200 teams compete in order to get the highest score, efficiency, and build a model around it. Currently, there's this competition going on called the YouTube Challenge, and it's about classifying YouTube videos and their images inside of them with artificial intelligence code. We are currently ranked 6th or 7th place on this competition out of 578 teams. And this was a vision that I had to crowdsource an entire city's talent pool and mind to bring together a competitive team to win these competitions. The bounty is about $100,000. I suspect that within 1 or 2 generations of these competitions, we will be 1st and 2nd place within every single competition. And this is being extended to New York and Boston, and our partnership with this big company will give us the necessary hardware to not only mentally brute force these challenges, but also to compute brute force, thereby gaining attention of the world as organizing talent and data science skills. So Sunday we have our 3-city hike, I call it. It's the first day that I'm launching 3 Hike with a Data Scientist events on one day. What is a hike with a data scientist? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a hike with a data scientist, and you walk and talk about data. And physicists come, chemists, bioinformaticists, business people. The vision behind that and why I founded it was I wanted to bring data scientists out to walk and talk about their ideas and to share their bottlenecks. And something beautiful happened the previous Sunday. where we were in a little semicircle of about 20 people. Usually it's 20, 25, 30 people go hiking together. And everyone went around, and it was a diverse set of skill sets. And the woman on my left, she goes, I have a technique for identifying Alzheimer's, 10 weeks earlier. And I have the data for it. I have the proof, but I need it to be validated, and I need a data scientist to help me with this. And I saw a gleam in the eye of many of the people that were there that said, I want to be part of something like this. I want to contribute. I want to contribute to science. I want to be part of this. So they connected, and she's being helped out by one of our data scientists right now. And this is beautiful. If you're a scientist, come to our data science hike, and you'll find somebody passionate that's willing to take their time and energy to discover a cure for X, Y, and Z. So that's very exciting. Monday, I fly out to Silicon Valley to pitch family offices on San Diego and the investment opportunity out here. I want to bring the money home. And I really have a good feeling about this because the family office world, they are very interested in artificial intelligence and genomics, but they don't necessarily have the skill set or the kind of background knowledge. So I will bring them the experts, and I will have them invest in San Diego, and that's my goal. And finally, on Tuesday, I am finalizing I'm putting together a data science career fair. This is my vision from the beginning. In fact, everything that I'm doing is actually geared towards that. You see, the way you get the world's attention is you launch a open source career fair for the first time in history, actually, not only in South California. And the idea behind that is to have people sign up for the career fair, to not pay for it, to bring various companies from around the world on December 1st to hire people. And what's interesting is on December 4th, only 4 or 5 days later from our career fair, there is the biggest artificial intelligence meeting in the world, a conference called NIPS. Okay, and we're going to do it several days earlier. And what I plan to do with some of the guidance of the people in this room and your help and support, I want to charter buses from north to south, bring them to San Diego, white gloves, red carpet treatment, show them our capabilities. It's impressive. Scale matrix, it's impressive. It's one of a kind. Let's show them what we have, and let's impress them. And when they go back to their conference, when they go back north, back to their original plan, what do you think they're going to be talking about? They're going to be talking about us and San Diego. And some of them are going to stay, and that's where I want to work together to figure out incentives to have them join us and our community here. So, all right, that's the end of my Machine Learning Society explanation, and now I would like to start the event and to bring on our panel. Let's begin with bringing Chris Rowan. Now, the way that I want to do this is I would actually like for you to tell your background and a brief answer to why San Diego, why now?
Okay, so I'm Chris Rowan, and I am really a technologist and entrepreneur through most of my career, and now, in the last year especially, moving almost purely into investing and related activities. I've been very active in creating two quite successful microprocessor technology companies, MIPS and Tensilica, and have seen that whole story arc from individual sitting in his living room, sitting in my living room, kind of conceiving of it through the funding process, building a team, building a technology, and working on the proliferation of something which in its way changed the world. In recent years, I have become completely engaged in the artificial intelligence, deep learning, computer vision. And it's been my biggest focus for the last 4 or 5 years. And part of the reason to move from the industrial setting to the entrepreneurial setting is because I think it is nothing less than a revolution. This fundamental new class of algorithms, this fundamental insight into statistical computing, is allowing us for the first time to build computing systems, to build algorithms, to build cars, to build every kind of device or service, which really can take much more complex, much fuzzier, much more ambiguous inputs and create really useful results. And in that sense, it is creating a whole series of mechanisms which are more analogous to the way that people work than the way we've traditionally seen computers work. I don't want to overplay the human versus machine aspect of it. That's not what's interesting about it. But what is interesting is that it has the capability to make almost every kind of service, every kind of profession, every kind of piece of equipment different, smarter, safer, faster, more efficient, and to evolve more quickly to serve these needs. And so I have been studying the worldwide artificial intelligence market. And I've sort of tried to figure out, naively, well, what are all the companies that are doing AI? And it turns out there are thousands that are doing some form of AI. So you have to filter that down to a set which are doing something serious with it. And even then, it's a huge number in an enormous variety of places with an enormous variety of end markets, applications, or devices that they're targeting. But it is such a ferment of ideas, and I have never seen a technology like it. If you are not up to date on the articles that were published last month in this field, you're behind the times. The number of students who are studying it, the number of individuals who are teaching themselves this technology, the number of startups, the number of big companies that are placing big bets, the number of column inches being written about it are all staggering.
And only one community.
And it is really a worldwide community. It really is something that reflects the underlying globalization of know-how that is allowing these things to happen. Now, today, it is not uniformly distributed. There are not as many startups in Paris as there are in San Francisco in this area. And it's worth, and maybe in the conversation we'll get into that question. But to come around to the two questions that you asked, is it now? Emphatically, it is now. The pace of innovation in this deep learning artificial intelligence area is truly staggering. And an enormous amount of value is going to be created by companies that get founded this year. Why San Diego? The honest answer is it could happen here. It's not yet happening here as fast as it is happening in some places, though it is happening certainly a good bit more than it is happening in some. It is very uneven. There is a fair amount of activity here, but if you take that just as a sample, that core of artificial intelligence, to be honest, there's probably 25 times as much that's happening in the Bay Area, just by the number of companies, the amount of buzz. And so the upside potential for here is enormous because the intellectual resources of San Diego are certainly not 1/25th of it. I think that it is something where the latent capability of San Diego is ready to be tapped. But it does take, I think, concerted activity in order to create the whole set of circumstances, the linkage to university, the access to capital, the informal communities, the buzz in the coffee houses about what can happen. Some of it can be very explicitly created. I think that the funders, the law firms, the real estate people, all play actually a very significant role in enabling this kind of of entrepreneurial revolution. And so I suppose my flip answer to the question is, why not San Diego? It can be here, but there's a lot to be done to make it look like some of these other places. And there are places in the world where you'd expect more to be happening where it isn't. I could ask the same question about Tel Aviv. Now, Tel Aviv we think of as a real hub of innovation, but in AI specifically, not that much is happening there. So it is not intrinsic. It is a function of specific action and turning circumstances to their best advantage.
Thank you. And now our next speaker is Naveed Alipour. Can you come to the stage?
So I have to give it to Tristen. Kudos on the title, Why San Diego, Why Now? I think it's fantastic. And I think I was telling Ping, we were catching up recently. So in some ways, I feel like I've been an unofficial ambassador for San Diego, because with Analytics Ventures right now, we're in the midst of raising our new fund. We're about a third of the way done. And I'm talking to investors all over the world. In the U.S., from New York to San Francisco to London to Dubai, and I have to tell them why San Diego, why now, before I talk about why us. So in regards to the why San Diego, here's some statistics that we were shocked to find out. San Diego is number one in the world. No, I'm sorry, number one in the U.S., number two in the world for percentage of IP filed per population. We're number one in the U.S., not San Francisco, not San Jose, not New York, not LA. We're number two in the world. Tel Aviv is number one per population, patents filed per population. So this is a human gold mine of capital between UCSD, the Supercomputer Center, Qualcomm, SpaceWar, Illumina, Viasat, Cubic, all the other companies. So yes, granted, there is a heavy focus on life science, biotech, med device, but guess what? Now there's a convergence of life science and software, and we're the epicenter of that. And we're seeing just amazing stuff just coming out of the woodwork. We have a partnership with the San Diego Supercomputer Center, and with a very generous grant recently that the school has gotten for a data science institute from one of our venture partners, they are going to attract even more talent to San Diego. So our focus is keeping as much talent here, because guess what? They go up to the Bay because that's where the jobs are. And we always say, stop comparing ourselves to Silicon Valley. Just be a better San Diego. Silicon Valley will always be Silicon Valley. It's like a mature dividend-paying stock. Have it in your portfolio, right? It's reached its velocity. It's not going to grow at the same velocity, but it's there. It's a rich utility stock, dividend-paying stock. Have it in your portfolio. But if you want growth, it's in San Diego, Salt Lake City, Houston, Austin, other places. And in the Bay Area, at Google, I think, UCSD grads are number 5 in representation after obviously Stanford, Berkeley. Arizona State has a fantastic program. But UCSD's right there. And so it's a little bittersweet for us because we've been talking about this, how great San Diego is. And in some ways, it's nice that there's not more competition, but I believe that a rising tide will lift all boats. So I'm very happy that the word is getting out. And you have Google, you have Fitbit, you have Amazon. They're opening offices here in San Diego, hiring hundreds of people. Because they're like, wait a second, we're hiring these people up in the valley. We're paying them way more than if we paid them in San Diego. The cost of living is nicer in San Diego. Why live in San Jose if you could live in San Diego? The cost of commercial real estate is ridiculous. So I always say, if you're a startup in Silicon Valley that raises $10 million, I discount that to a company in San Diego raising $4 million. Because half the money goes for real estate. You rent for God knows how much a square foot for multi-year leases, whereas here, this beautiful space here, $3 a square foot. If you want to be cheap, you can get space by Qualcomm for $1.50, right? In 1-year leases. So the people making money it's like the gold rush days. It's the once selling the pickaxes and the shovels and the jeans. It's the people that own the real estate, a lot of it, right? And when companies raise too much money because they have to, then the window's much smaller for what they have to sell for. Whereas if you build something here, you could entertain a lower priced exit. So I think why San Diego, why now, is for a multitude of reasons. From the human capital is already here. I mean, Jeff Hinton, who knows who Jeff Hinton is by chance? Microsoft invested in his lab. He got his PhD at UCSD, right? And so the talent's here, and I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep some of the talent from leaving to create that ecosystem that we're all talking about. And so I think we are reaching a critical mass, and we're at a cornerstone where I think when people look back in history, they're going to say, it was that, 5 to 7 year period that really changed the velocity for San Diego. And we're playing a small role in it. There needs to be 10 more of us, right? People, just like, LA, I say, is 5 years ahead of us, and having, small VC funds, small as in under 300 million. And we need more of that in San Diego. Now, we employ a very unique model. We're a venture fund operating under a venture studio model, and we have our own AI lab. So we have corporate partners, so we work very differently, but we need all of that. It's apples and oranges. We need more venture funds, venture studios, more capital. And I'm going to leave it with this, and I'll shut up and wait for the panel. So a lot of people in San Diego will complain. There's Facebook pages for entrepreneurs, and there's no money here. It's not true. The ones that are raising money because they deserve it, get it, and they're busy working, and they're not complaining. And San Diego, I got this from Eric Otterson of Silicon Valley Bank yesterday, raised more Series A in the last 6 months than the last 2-3 years combined. And San Diego raised more 10 million plus rounds in the last 6 months than the last 5 years. So I don't want to hear about there's not money here. That's bullshit. The money will come here from elsewhere. Pardon my French. But I will leave it with that. This is the exact right time for San Diego, and the money may not be headquartered here, but that doesn't matter. Money will come here if you have a good story and good technology. So
Thank you so much. Now our final panelist, Ping Wang.
Thanks, guys. Wow. It is a great pleasure to be here, albeit I am in an unenviable position of following and being last amongst distinguished speakers representing the investment world, and speaking in front of you guys who are the experts already in AI and robotics and other areas. And so basically being able to tell you something that you may not know is something I'll have to rack and sit down and think. And also most of you, I think, know me. I'm looking around the room. So I'll just keep it really brief in terms of who I am. Helped create one of the first startup co-working centers here. We've actually had hackathons as well, and glad to see the torch being carried on. We also worked with Scale Matrix and Andrew to bring and migrate our whole experience co-working center, which turned into an incubator, which turned into helping out with the Techstars accelerator with Qualcomm as well. So it is actually via that capacity with Techstars that I've gotten to see a lot of applications, both with the Qualcomm Robotics Accelerator in 2015, where we chose out of hundreds of applicants 10 startup companies to invest in, and also this past year with the Techstars IoT Accelerator in New York City. And that also had a very high percentage of startups in the AI field as well. And that was also amongst about 1,000 applicants. We only could pick 10 as well, and once again invest in those. So it was really interesting kind of juxtaposing the experience here in San Diego with New York City, where this last accelerator was, and also other Techstars accelerators throughout the world, and also through my own experience in Silicon Valley as well, partly being educated there and also experiencing the startup culture and large corporate culture as well. So with that said, that's me in a nutshell. I'm also fairly multidisciplinary with a sort of a manufacturing and also neuroscience PhD at UCSD in computational neuroscience. So a lot of that led up to sort of the background of AI and this new revolution in deep learning as well. So kind of have the science element and manufacturing and hardware product side of things as well, which I'll bring into the conversation soon. Now, as to Tristen's really interesting question, why AI and why SD? I'll take those in those two parts. So first, the really interesting elements of AI, right? I think I agree with all the panelists here that it is an extraordinary opportunity, and there's some really interesting attributes or aspects of artificial intelligence. And in a word, it's big. Here's what I mean: it's wide and it's deep. So what do I mean by it's wide? It can be applied to almost everything, right? I mean, you look around you, and what cannot use additional intelligence, right? I mean, whether it's the wearable side, whether it's your beverages and you're monitoring that, whether it's this microphone making better filters, whether it's glasses and inputting information, the world of applications is huge. And if you compare that to the internet, which is also really huge, but it was still constrained in terms of its how it was consumed, whether it be computer screens or it was always through your screens basically. And now we're migrating from that world of sort of the cyber world and mixing that with a physical world, and hence there's this excitement about IoT, for example. So there's that really interesting attribute of just this is a universal tool of intelligence that could be applied to almost anything, right? And then deep. Why is it deep? Well, intelligence comes in so many different layers and so many different levels. There's the greater overall level of sort of human interaction, right? But it also boils down even to the silicon level, which many companies here, whether Nirvana acquired by Intel, et cetera, and many of the UCSD-based labs are actually working even on the silicon level, and then everything in between as well. So that's a unique technology in that regard too, that it spans so many different levels. So that's what I mean by big. Dimensionally, it's got so many different verticals it can cover, and so many applications it can cover, and it's so many different, in terms of the stack itself, there's so many different areas that it can play with as well. So that's why it's big, and that's also an opportunity for San Diego. So this is going on to the San Diego question. What is San Diego good at, right? We're really good at deep sciences, right? We're one of the best biotech clusters in the world. We've also got the telecom communication via a la Qualcomm. So these are all deep sciences that require PhDs. That PhDs can actually help out a lot, deep learning, et cetera. Partly through our excellent institutions here, and we have Todd Hilton, for example, from UCSD's Contextual Robotics Institute, fairly new institute as well, and one of 6 centers of excellence. So you've got all these different elements coming into play, where we are playing on our strengths in so many different disciplines, right? And I just got through with telling you that AI can be applied to so many of these different things, and the intermixing of it, the application of it thereof, right? So there's that, and then there's also, if you look historically at our track record, Naveed already mentioned the past history. Well, just to add on to that, we're essentially, this is the birthplace of this whole notion or the field of cognitive science. This is also where we have some of the highest per capita neuroscientists in the world, which is informing a lot of this neurological or neuromorphic approaches or neuromorphic architectures as well. Once again, from all the way from the silicon all the way up to the deep learning neural networks and algorithms. So we already have a track record of being a leader there. We're also, I believe, the number 2 sort of IP generating capital in the world as well, right? So all these different facts about San Diego, we're punching above our weight class in terms of not only our size of the city and the population. And I think it's something to us to actually go and broadcast to the world and shine the limelight on us as well, because there are already so many things. We already have a track record there. There'll be a third part, which I want to address, which is what we need to do. So I agree with Chris. This is just the beginning, not the end. We can't declare ourselves the winner and the place to be necessarily right now. There will be many of these places. But the most important thing is that it's you guys, talent, right? So we're in basically a talent crunch, especially for people who really know deeply machine learning. And if you go to a lot of forums, if you go to talks, there are always these discussions about the need to get the talent. So I think that's one thing we can address. We already have very good starting institutions that we can emphasize and create. The other element is breaking down the silos between the biotech clusters, between telecommunications, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I'll leave with this word, which is I think that we're going from the Internet of Things, where it's a lot about connectivity, to the intelligence of things, where we're going on beyond connectivity to basically making everything smart. And that's where the world of opportunity lies. Thanks.
So I structured this talk with somewhat of a fireside chat approach, and people from the audience are welcome to chime in if you have expertise in the area. That's certainly encouraged. I want to ask a question, and this is not on my list, but it's something that spawned out of some of the discussions that just happened. Is 2017 a critical year for choosing the winners of AI for the coming century or the decade? Is this an important year that we need to hurry for and rush towards before we get left behind or before other cities get left behind?
You know, I would say we're in the infancy of AI, so I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is sort of the internet in 1996.
Yeah.
It was a very big year for the internet, and there are people sort of after the internet bubble burst in 2001 sort of said, oh, well, you know, we've experienced now the internet. But after that came Google, Facebook, Baidu. You know, the internet really happened over a very extended period of time, and the big companies evolved even after the first flurry of activity. AI really started to become visible only about 3 years ago. Outside of a small community of people working in a handful of kind of advanced vision and imaging things, not many people were aware of this technology. It has rapidly gained the top of the Gartner hype curve. It is likely to fall somewhat off of it, but I actually think that we're talking about a period of 20 years of continuous advances in this technology. So, of course, there's a sense of urgency because there's so much that can in fact be done as fast as we can respond and execute on it. But if it's something that could be done in a year, then it's not real. It has to be something of a longer period.
Since you prompted it, where are we in the hype cycle?
For 2016, literally in the Gartner hype,
Right.
in 2015, deep learning didn't appear at all.
Okay.
And in 2016, it was at the very top.
The very top.
So for 2017,
Are we
my
going-
guess
are we going
is
down
that
the other side then in 2017?
I think and this year they're going to put it again at the top.
At the top?
Yeah, I think that we will see, of necessity, when people get so excited about it,
Right.
that not everything can be as dramatic as what everybody, as the most extreme statements are said.
Well,
But
Okay, well, given
but-
that, as an investor, what would you look for now then?
well, first of all, because it's at the top of the hype curve, almost anybody on the thinnest of excuses will label what they're doing as AI. I mean, there is so much decorative AI which is taking place.
Decorative AI, I like that.
You have to sort through that. And there are many really good companies that are doing something deep and interesting that feel compelled to say, oh, I found a reason to call it AI. And I think one of the signs you will see that at least the froth is coming down a little bit if these companies start labeling themselves once again as what they really do, as opposed to finding some lame excuse. We do linear regression on our data, therefore we're an AI company. Okay, great. So I think, though, that you have this growing understanding of the really sophisticated, really significant, really deep methods. And it does take time for those things really to be thoroughly understood and for people, more importantly, to figure out the best applications for them. And that's a decade-long process. So it's probably the case that we will have some people saying it's been oversold because all the things said can't possibly be true. But the reality, I think, is continuing to grow at a very rapid rate for the really serious stuff.
I think Chris makes a couple of great comments. One, it's funny you said it's 1996 because one of my sayings is this is 1995. What 95 was for the web era, the internet era, this is 1995 for the AI era. And you're right, there's so many people that slap machine learning on their LinkedIn and they don't know machine learning. And we've been hiring for our AI lab, and so our head scientist is vetting these people out, and it's true. A lot of people say they are experts, and they're just not. And AI, you're right. AI's been around for decades, but it is only, to your point, the last couple of years that it's really taken off as computing power has gone up and storage costs have gone down, and we can crunch more data more efficiently. So I think that's played a huge role. I mean, one of our companies, CureMatch, we co-founded that with Dr. Rizal Kurzak, who's deputy director of the Moore Cancer Center, built the largest clinical trial in the world at MD Anderson before coming to UCSD. And she says, if you told us we could do what we're doing now 5 years ago, she's like, I would laugh at you. But we're doing it now. We're crunching massive amounts of data, and what they're doing specifically is they're, out of millions of combinations of drugs, they're coming up with a recommendation 1, 2, 3 for the oncologist as a decision support tool to say, this might be a better combination of drugs for the patient's cancer. And it's mind-blowing the results they've been getting at Moore's, which is one of the reasons that's actually the first one we licensed out of UCSD, because we said this has to go to market. This shouldn't be just for patients that have access to Moore's. This has to go out to the world. But it's the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add to that is that we've seen a lot at Techstars of just everybody labeling everything with machine learning as well, so on that same thing. But then also if you add to that, and if they do have the talent, and they kind of know a little bit about that, they can also they don't adequately answer the question of where they're going to get their data from. Right? The machine learning requires data to train on, and how much data, and a lot of times they underestimate the sheer volume to make it effective, right? And so they promise these things, and then you kind of see this loophole in how they're actually implemented.
If any of you have seen Michael Zeller's presentation, Michael Zeller's had a company called Zementis in town, software AG out of Germany acquired. And Michael had a fantastic slide where he says, data is the 21st century's oil. The AI machine learning is the refinery that's going to turn that oil into gas, that data into results. So you could be the Saudi Arabia of data. If you can't get it out of the ground, you're not going to get value. And you could have the best team of machine learning AI experts. If you can't get access to the data, the refinery is going to rust. So you really do need both.
Then would you say the machine reasoning is really a key, like semantic technology and stuff like that, to be able to integrate, harmonize, and have the data so that we can be able to use it on a grander scale?
Well, that's a really interesting question. And people have, over the course of the last 30 years of AI research, had lots of different models. There was a whole knowledge-based reasoning sort of phenomenon even 35 years ago. And I think what people found is that a lot of these formal mechanisms for capturing knowledge relationships didn't end up working very well. And what's happening today with deep learning is we're saying rather than explicitly try to capture rules about reasoning, let's just take a ton of examples of the result of reasoning. And what you've really done is really kind of adopted this brute force approach that says if you have enough data, enough examples of sophisticated behavior, you can build something, a black box, which reasons or identifies or recognizes or grades as well as a human does, or better than a human does. It will do things by building a statistical model of enormous sophistication as a black box. So one of the ironies of this modern age of deep learning is that we actually don't know what's in the model. We don't know what connections, what reasoning process it's going through. But if you look at what goes in to what goes out, it has an exact simulation of very sophisticated reasoning. And that's good enough. I mean, if it drives your car or does better than a radiologist in identifying cancers, or it does a better job in translating language, it's a very pragmatic sort of approach to reasoning that has emerged. And it is really in quite sharp contrast to some of the previous generations of AI thinking.
Yeah.
Sure.
Uh,
FM.
yeah, so I've been pioneering data mining 20 years ago. So, one of the danger in AI is the hype.
Yeah.
We know the winters of AI.
Yeah.
So I think it's our responsibility today to think about it in terms of how we communicate it, so people don't estimate it, and they want to know another winter. Now, on the data and the thinking, you're absolutely right. I mean, rule-based system just doesn't make it. However, the reasoning is not pattern matching, and the data today does only correlation to do pattern matching. So if we talk about thinking, then we have to go to a new technology to do that. So I preach for my own church because it's exactly what we are doing, a new technology for the thinking. Because black box, at some point, you have to trust the system. And it's very difficult to trust the system if you cannot say why. And secondly, it takes a lot of time to tune it because you don't understand what's going on. It's a hard work. I mean, learning, a lot of people think they just push on button and the thing is learning. No, I mean it's art. So I think it's we need both. We need the pattern matching, and we need the thinking, reasoning part. And at the same time, we have to pay attention to how we communicate it, so the public do not overestimate that and we go to another winter.
And I would comment also that while it's true we have better compute, we get a lot more data, and we can do a lot more stuff, we have some better techniques. The classic problems in AI that killed it last time still exist. They're the same problems, and they're still here. But most people aren't really quite looking at them because they don't know the history. So if you look back at the history, you can see where the limitations are in the various techniques, and you can look at what we're doing now, and you can say, yeah, they're still there. We can do more than we could, but just as an example, all the machine learning we do today, basically makes a statistical assumption that stuff that happens a lot is what I care about. And in some applications that is true, but in some applications it's not true. The stuff that happens a lot is what I don't care about. I care about the exceptions, and we don't know how to do that. So I think that I urge I'm worried about the hype myself.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge proponent of it in general, but I'm also cautious about what it can actually do and understanding the underlying pieces. And I think it might be a sales point for a distinguisher for San Diego. It may sound strange, right? To say that we're the cautious ones in some sense, right? Because we've looked at because we understand the problems, and so we went through the stuff, and the applications that we think we can do now are these because they fit within the paradigm of things that we know how to do. It's a very academic thing, so I'm speaking like an academic, which I am now. But it's just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that in terms of what we, the community, encourage as funders, as mentors, is very much about that, because that's the place where you can start to separate out the sheep
Yes.
and the goats,
Yeah.
and sort of say, yeah,
Yeah.
you could do AI there,
Right.
but isn't there a simpler way to go at this problem? Don't apply deep learning just because you can.
Yeah.
Apply it because it's the only way that you can solve that
So
problem.
here's a suggestion for you, Tristen. Have a society meeting where we talk about all the limitations of AI and its history, and educate people about what it can't do, given what we currently know.
I would
Okay?
love to put this panel together.
Okay.
So we'll talk afterwards.
Yeah.
So I want to jump at my next question and add a little politics to the discussion. So I have some. So Silicon Valley or the Bay Area, it's a combination of different cities, San Jose and Oakland and just some of these other cities. New York City, for example, the New York scene, the technology scene is Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, my hometown, Staten Island, and the Bronx. So these are huge areas, and yet they're all being labeled one thing. But San Diego is it's long and small, But if we were to, let's say, add Orange County to a regional technology cluster, we would be much bigger and better, and in that same way that people would talk about us as a regional technology cluster. Does it make sense for us to become a regional technology cluster with Orange County, possibly exchange data, minds? You know, these are some of the thoughts that I have, and I don't know the answer, so I ask, would that make sense for us? What are the benefits and what are the costs?
I think a mega region approach has a lot of benefits to it, right? And I would actually incorporate, like, for example, in my previous life working on hardware, I was looking south of the border to Tijuana in Mexico, because we have, that was part of the reason my family moved here, was to establish these maquiladoras. And you know, you hear a lot of this on the news, and NAFTA apparently is going to get renegotiated, et cetera, et cetera. So going back to politics. So you know, that's one of San Diego's strengths. We're an interface city. Not only interfaces between a lot of different sciences and technologies, but also a lot of different cultures and a nation. We're also on the Asia-Pacific Rim. I happen to make a lot of trips to Asia, partly because of the whole hardware and manufacturing thing, partly also because of the science and the talent that's coming out of that there as well. I just recently have a couple of cases that I'm trying to bring over here and vice versa. So absolutely, I think our geographical situation is actually quite advantageous and perhaps underappreciated a lot of the times. And I think it's not a one-size-fits-all answer of like we should label ourselves this, because there is already something called the Cali Baja mega region, for example. That's already like a thing, and that's actually actively being promoted here. There is also a Southern California, you know, lumping when people refer to us as part of Southern California. So I think I don't know that we necessarily need to stick to any one particular label and run with it. I think there's also something unique and advantageous about calling San Diego for what it is as well. And while our population-wise, we're disadvantageous to the New Yorks and even the Bay Area. Look at how many cities are in just the Bay Area and quote-unquote Silicon Valley. There's still something special to San Diego as well. So this is not necessarily a direct answer. It depends on the situation. I think in advantageous situations, we can be part of a broader group, but there's also something special to San Diego as well.
I agree, and the only thing I would add to Ping's great comments, I'm not worried about Orange County or San Francisco or New York. I'm worried about China. Okay, so we don't need to be worried about competing with, you know, domestically, because it's you know, China that can overlap us, because they are putting a ton of money into what they do. Their students are frankly better trained in the sciences and the math sectors, and we're making it politically harder for them to come here to start companies here. So they're going to start companies there. They're going to go to Canada, right? And so that's where the politics plays into it, where, you know, I mean, go back a decade or more, Microsoft and Amazon got tired of our H-1 visa, you know, limitations, and so they set up shop in Canada. And Canada's getting that new DNA, people buying houses there, you know, paying taxes there, spending money there, starting companies there. So it was off on a slight tangent for your question. Mm-hmm. I think it's frankly irrelevant to try to say, let's say it's San Diego and Orange County. Because if you talk to investors from outside of Southern California, they just lump us to Southern California anyway. Mm-hmm. I was on a call today. Like I said, I feel like I'm an unofficial San Diego ambassador of late, because I'm talking to institutional investors from all over, and you know, these guys are out of Philadelphia, and they're like, yeah, we've invested in, you know, funds in Silicon Valley, but we haven't done anything in Southern California. They're not even saying San Diego or, you know, LA. They're like, yeah, there's that upfront one in LA, mm-hmm. and upfront's, you know, $1 billion fund in LA, right? Like, we all know it, but like, yeah, there's that upfront one, but other than that, you know, we don't know anyone else in Southern California. So,
I don't think that being small is necessarily bad. You know, if you think back, not that many years ago, you know, when we talk about the Bay Area, San Francisco wasn't a place where startups were. I mean, it really was happening in a relatively small physical region. And you think about the South Bay, yeah, there was San Jose and a few towns around it, but everything of interest was happening between San Jose and Palo Alto. It was quite local. And the population has grown, but it wasn't really that much population. So I don't think there is an inherent disadvantage in being small. And I don't think you have to sort of aggressively and proactively try to grab Orange County in order to do it. People do tend to stay local, and there will be overlapping communities all the way down. Somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I think the natural distance that you want to travel is, the round-trip distance from wherever you are needs to be done on one charge of a Tesla.
That's good.
That's good, I like that.
And so that sort of sets a natural
That's the
size.
scale of that.
And quickly, I wanted to say no need to apologize about mentioning China, because I am planning a talk called Machine Learning Superpower, China, US, Israel, and some other country, So I want to bring the leaders of those organizations to San Diego to talk about their nation states AI kind of opportunities and what they're planning to do with it, and have them talk right here in San Diego, maybe bring some of their technologies here. You never know. So yeah, so no need to apologize. Thank you for allowing me to plug China.
So with regard to the regional thing and the sort of the theme PhDiego that we have here, a lot of educated people, there's also another excellent university not very far away called UC Irvine. They have it's a huge university, lots of really smart people there. And I think somehow they sort of get, I don't know, they sort of get, they're not really seen the way maybe they could be seen. So maybe there's opportunity there.
Well, just one quick stat on, you're right about UCI. UCSD though, they graduated more computer science engineers out of the CSE program than Stanford, Berkeley, and UCLA combined in 2015.
Where they go?
Where do they
Went
go?
to the Valley.
Silicon Valley, yeah.
But so that, I mean, to
that's
talk
where
about
they go.
human capital, like
They go to the valley.
Yeah.
UCSD, they graduated more than those three schools combined.
Yep.
So that transitions into our next question. How do we keep them here? What incentives can we provide to keep startup companies in the AI space, machine learning, and just some of these high-tech technology firms to keep them in San Diego? Let's hold that question. Did anybody else have a comment?
There was a question over here that
I just want to say, as someone who's sold both California and San Diego for the last 25 years for business investment, you guys are a gift. And I want to connect you with the person who was my successor here in San Diego. I also wanted to make a couple comments about UCSD. I'm on the Jacobs School of Engineering board, and I'm on the Cal IT2 board. And Cal IT2 is one of the UC Centers of Excellence, which is paired as the lead institution with UC Irvine. So when there's a rational reason to connect with Orange County, we should do so. And UCSD is the number 13 ranked engineering school in the U.S. and the number 1 public university, research university. We have so much to brag about in this region, and I'd like to find a way to continue to work with you, because when you have a new industry like AI and machine learning, we have the opportunity to really position San Diego very effectively. My successor at the EDC, Mark Cafferty, I invented the branding technologies Perfect Climate. We used that for a number of years. They just did a rebranding, and now they branded San Diego Life Changing. And the other comment I would make about UCSD, which because of what the University of California is doing, and UCSD is doing better than most of the rest of the UC schools, is they're starting to really look at the moving the innovation at UCSD out, not the typical tech transfer, but more the kind of thing where they're doing innovative things around IP, around accelerators, around innovation spaces, and other things. And it's just a treasure. So I think maybe, perhaps it would be great to even consider doing an event on the campus, which I can help you arrange, to really start to showcase that linkage between academia and here. The Bay Area is 9 counties, and I would defy you to get to the furthest reaches on round trip on a Tesla chart. The beauty of San Diego is that we have so much geographic clustering that starts around UCSD, becomes the densest concentration of research institutes in the world that you could practically walk to. And a level of collaboration that when I worked with Dr. Michael Porter on Clusters of Innovation 18 years ago, said the level of collaboration and cooperation in San Diego is unlike any place he saw in the entire country. And we have to package all of this and rationalize it around this new industry so that we can be in the forefront from the beginning, in my opinion.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could answer your question partly also by addressing the China question, I think that'll also get to our strengths. It's interesting, Naveed, that you mentioned we should think to China and are they going to be a big competitor? And this could be foretelling the debate that you want to plan. But I also, recently came back from China and had some dealings there, and the opposite is true from their perspective. They're scared to death about being left behind. Partly it's because by dint of being a developing country for the past couple of decades, I don't know if they're developing now. They're fairly well along now, but they haven't had the time and the resources and the intellectual talent to build up their institutions the way that we have had. So even though they're minting a lot of PhDs and technical talent, the degree of technical talent is not the same degree of technical talent that we have here. And they are not sort of on the same level of innovation and generative. They're really good at the sort of the minutia and the back-end engineering and things like that, right? But actually coming up with really great ideas and innovation, they address that, and they know that they're lacking there. That's actually one of our greatest advantages. They would die to have more institutions like UCSD. And pound for pound, if you look at any of the metrics, whether it be Nobel laureates and innovations, patents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's sort of pure metric of innovation. So they have the numbers, and they're catching up rapidly. Part of the sort of systemic issue there is a couple for cultural. Obviously, a lot of people have heard about that and the respect for IP, et cetera, but also teachers. They can't churn out the degree of talent. And the people who know machine learning and AI, et cetera, are being sucked into companies, right? So they're not teaching the next generation. Whereas here at UCSD, we have a great base. And I mentioned the track record of being a birthplace of cognitive science, of ostensibly deep learning, et cetera. We have such a rich sort of academic tradition that I think we need to draw upon that better. We need to basically better integrate. I'm kind of looking to Todd there because he's the representative from UCSD. Partly there. So yeah. So I think that goes to your question of like where some of our key strengths lies, because even like I said, pound for pound, we have a real gem in terms of our talent base and the generation of that talent that's truly deeply also innovative and creative in a sense. China also has the censorship problem, etc. And but what they also have, though, the thing to look at is that they have money, and so. If you look at the acquisition, one of our great sort of losses from Stanford is Andrew Ng, right? Taken over by, hired by Baidu, et cetera, et cetera. So they're putting a lot of money into it. What we need to do, I think, is partly do the better linkages, tap into the talent at the very root core, give them additional reasons to stay here. And I think there's also, coming from Silicon Valley, I think Silicon Valley is reaching sort of I don't know if it's saturation, but in terms of price point and talent, et cetera, and the cost of living, we're only an hours away, right? Yeah. Compared to China, you have to trans-Pacific flight, right? So even though it's a double-edged sword of our proximity to Silicon Valley and our talent being sucked up there, it could be vice versa. It's also an advantage to be so close to the mecca of technology in a sense, and to leverage that. And with things like funding, I think that's part of the reason. Is like it's so easy to just fly up there and pitch as well. So I think there's something in that milieu of better access to the talent as well as better access to the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I think I can add a little bit more data if we stay on this international question for a moment, because I've constructed this list of the series companies so we can do some demographic work on it. And of course, you look at it, and the U.S. represents by far the biggest home base for these companies. By far, the biggest next one is the UK. The UK is a real hotbed of AI research and companies. A distant third is China. And then you get Germany and Israel and Canada, and there's kind of a long tail of places. But it is today actually quite concentrated in the US. And in the US, California completely dominates relative to, the next one is Massachusetts, then New York, then Texas. So it really is something which is happening here in California in a very big way. And that's a huge asset, because there is this ability to cross-fertilize and this commonality of kind of intellectual culture that makes the transmission of this virus, that much easier. So I think that the environment is actually a very healthy one for expanding the footprint of San Diego in that way, even though it's not that big. I think in part because it's overshadowed by the bio and genomics element of it. And certainly one of the obvious things to do is to put a lot of focus on the intersection between AI and bio.
Yeah, I had a comment. I didn't mean to interrupt, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
But Tristen interrupted you, not me.
I'll take it out on him later.
I think the original question was, how do we keep the talent here, right? The UCSD is pouring out talent, and I can speak to this personally as a graduate of the computer science PhD program at UCSD. I would see my classmates just one by one get sucked up to the Bay Area like it was a vacuum. Like they would just be, I got it off from Google, whoop, disappear. These are friends of mine, and it's a little personal because they were all just disappearing to the Bay Area, and it made me want to go to the Bay Area. And then so as my graduation year, I'd be getting phone calls from the Googles and the Facebooks, and then just because I have PhD in computer science, that's all it took. They would start calling me and say, hey, let's go interview, we'll fly you up, all this stuff. It's very overwhelming, and it's actually a little flattering for my friends to have this type of attention poured upon them after eating ramen for freaking 6 years, right? So what they have, I don't have an answer for this, but I can better define the problem. These companies up there in the Bay Area, the Googles, the Facebooks, et cetera, and ones you haven't even heard of, they have a war machine of recruitment. Mm-hmm. They've got a nuclear bomb where we have a BB gun. When it comes to recruitment, the companies here don't understand the flattery, the gifts, the swag, the free food, the everything, the events that are held day in and day out at the computers, right in our own computer science building. Google comes down from the Bay Area and has a little presentation. So does Facebook, so does everybody else. They give tech talks, they give out free food. It's like they're continuously sucking us all up there, and we don't have any retaliation for that. And so that's the problem. I don't have the solution. I just wanted to paint my little picture, because
in part that's a startup versus big company question.
That's true.
As much as it is a San Diego versus.
That's right. Big companies have a lot of leverage when it comes to recruitment, and yeah.
And they have monopolies.
And
those two, and they make a mountain of money.
And the Googles and Facebooks and Apples are, to your point, literally sucking AI talent out of academia. And so part of the reason we created our AI lab is because we lost a guy to Apple. We literally offered him $100,000 more. And so he takes the job and he calls us 3 months later, by the way. He said, yeah, it's a lot more expensive to live up here. So that $100,000 he got wasn't really, that much. But just to my point, that they are, recruiting out of here. So, you do have to create an incentive, and there has to, frankly, be jobs.
Right.
Here.
Yeah. Right. It's a startup wise, but just to add one more thing. This is a personal story that it's not even a story. It's just like a 2-sentence thing. I have a startup here. It's called Augmented Data. It's freaking awesome. So that's here in San Diego. We're just getting off the ground, and it is in the AI space. But I'm not going to go on my pitch right now. My co-founder, he's part-time with us until we're funded to the point where he's going to leave his job. I'm full-time. He's part-time. He's been studying machine intelligence, machine learning before it was cool. For the last 10 years, he's been obsessed with it. So he is an expert, and he's been getting offers from the Bay Area like crazy. Now here's why he's been turning them down. First of all, he's dedicated to what we're doing, but secondly, there's a whole bunch of stuff about San Jose that's simply on a very soft side of the cell. It's the soft cell. It just is not as nice as San Diego. It kind of sucks up there. As bad as we think the traffic is in the 5 years, it's worse there during rush hour. It's a whole bunch of things that are much better about San Diego than, say, San Jose. No offense to anyone that's from San Jose, but San Diego's better. So that's the other thing. We need the soft sell side of it is good too. We need to really sell that. This is the most beautiful city in the world, or at least in the USA. Okay, I'm done.
And that's why I think.
Sucks T-shirts.
So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and this is going back to Julie's point about collaboration in San Diego. I actually came here from New York about 9 months ago or so, and I wanted to defrost and thaw, and then I thought I was going to make my way to Silicon Valley. I wanted to do that kind of bounce. And then I stayed here because of the collaboration. I found that people here are truly inspiring, and they want to collaborate and work together. And that's why the Machine Learning Society sparked in San Diego, not in Silicon Valley, not in New York, not in Boston. It's spreading there, but they're using a San Diego created model. And we control that model, by the way. So every innovation that we do for the Machine Learning Society gets uploaded to New York. And the reason that we're spreading so rapidly around the world, and I want to say this publicly, I missed the Bitcoin boom. I missed it. I didn't see it. My proximity to it was very, very distant. And I believe that every person here has something called a Bitcoin price. That is, at what point did you learn about Bitcoin or the next rapidly developing technology? Right now, there's something that just got created. Do we know about it? And how do we rapidly sort of adapt it and utilize it for that next, let's say it was deep learning a couple of years ago. So I believe in reducing that Bitcoin price that every person has from where I learned about it at $150 to 30 cents, 20 cents, reducing that lead time between an innovation and our knowledge of it. And the Machine Learning Society, we essentially plant antennae into various cities so that they can transmit information, data, and knowledge directly to each other and directly to headquarters, San Diego HQ. That's kind of the idea behind it. So yes, support it, and you'll get more data and opportunity out here. But the other thing that I wanted to mention also is we have something called the MLS DOT, the Machine Learning Society's database of talent. And our members submit their resumes, and I give these resumes out for free to any company looking to hire. There's people with deep learning expertise, there's people with many years of machine learning expertise. So look it up. I offer it for free. It's just a community service that I believe local companies should have in order to gain the talent that they need in order to compete and be hyper competitive in this landscape.
Yeah, concerning the how we keep the talent, of course I don't have the solution either. But I think one thing we have to admit is success that attract people. So what you guys are doing is essential to help startup, and then we will have a big success. Once we have a big success, it's going to attract people. The second thing is, I've been in Silicon Valley for 15 years, great, working very well. The reason I'm coming here is because I realized that you can apply AI to science, which means you can give a meaning to what you are doing. So I guess the difference between the Bay Area and San Diego, we do things that has a meaning really, and not just to do the next app and have a quick return, and which is great. I have nothing against that. But the way I feel the difference between the two places is more that. So maybe the meaning for the PhD guys has more and more, meanings to stay as well.
There's a saying in San Diego that San Diego, we do hard things, right? So, is there value to creating an app that delivers pizza faster? Sure. Is there value to dating apps? Sure. But in San Diego, we're solving real problems in healthcare and energy and cybersecurity. So,
I'd like to have Michael. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's kind of playing into where you ended your comment on. It actually plays really well into that. The reason why AI is now and in San Diego, it's because AI have come to a ripeness level where we can apply it in the omics spaces, the genomics, the proteomics, the hard ones, cancer, those kind of things. So the reason why when we say it's a hype cycle, and I say that's not a problem. Yes, it's hype. It gets out there. It's going to take us 3-5 years to build these companies, the liquid biopsy companies, where we can listen into the bloodstream and the small fragments that we, with AI, can then listen into and say, oh, it's this kind of cancer coming up much, much earlier. It's just because it's hard problems. We can't do it. We kind of have to have a winter to develop it and get it to a version 2 or 3, so it's not just a beta version we're kind of taking medical decisions on. So the reason why San Diego, AI and investments, it's because the application of AI, the way we do it, actually matters.
Absolutely.
I just want to, so I was at the San Diego Union Tribune as business reporter, and I was there for 18 years. And I regularly covered venture capital, quarterly activity reports. And when I left the newspaper in 2008, one of the things, so I joined Xconomy, and Xconomy was a startup at the time, online business news about technology innovation. And one of the things that surprised me at that time was, where did the tech sector go in San Diego? And so, you know, there's a long story behind that. I'll try to keep this abbreviated. But I set out on kind of a journalistic quest to understand what had happened to the tech sector. When I was reporting on venture capital activity during the late 90s, it was pretty even between tech and life sciences in San Diego. And San Diego regularly ranked third in the nation in terms of the amount of capital that was being invested. It was always Bay Area, second was Boston, and third was San Diego. Today, it's about seventh, San Diego ranks about 7th or 8th. And what I would say is that Silicon Valley is just totally like gone off the chart. And then a lot of other cities, there's a lot of capital that's just like New York and Austin and places like that have pushed San Diego down. And as a reporter, I get pitched by a lot of entrepreneurs who tell me, Naveed, I've got a great dating app, I've got a great calendar app, and at some point, somebody in San Diego said, you know, you should take a look at what's been happening in West Los Angeles and Santa Monica. There's a lot of activity there in terms of web startups and so forth. And when I started looking at it and I started reading Mark Suster's blog and so forth, what I realized was that Los Angeles was playing to their hometown strength. They were doing media and entertainment startups. And that led me to think about what are San Diego's hometown strengths. And it's life sciences. And to Michael's point, I think that the opportunities for entrepreneurs and for startups is in applying machine learning to big data problems in life sciences. There's money available, there are opportunities available. It's just a matter of trying to identify a bottleneck or a problem where there's value that you can solve.
Let me give you an example of this. So I moved to San Diego 3 years ago because this is the capital of genomics, and I needed to be here. This is the space I've devoted myself to as an entrepreneurial guy and now also as an active investor. And what I realized was that the digital biology, that is this opportunity to understand life from a digital matter, perspective or data source, is unique in San Diego because I'm running into people that have studied one phenomenon in some part of our body, in some part of the biology for 10, 12 years. They know exactly what is going on. And when I start bringing data scientists next to them, when I basically bring together a team and we apply the power of AI, it makes a ton of sense all of a sudden. things that really matters. We talked about the microphone. We can probably with AI build better filters, but honestly, the microphone is kind of working. Let's leave it be. Like it could be better, absolutely, but the little increase in value that comes from a better microphone is nothing compared to actually understanding what cancer is, what we can do about it, how we can screen earlier. Those kind of progress is going to come from genomics and the application of AI.
I would like to rebound on that. We are working right now with Craig Venter Institute, and so we are modeling the genome. And you feel the excitement from the scientists and from outside as well, because we really feel that we do something. So I think this can transcend a lot of difficulty, whatever things. So I think that one thing is life science is so strong here. We really need to leverage that, and AI is so perfect right now for that.
And the only
And
thing
that's how you keep talent, by the way, as well. Get them excited.
Absolutely, and so the only thing I will add to that is not just life science. Thermo Fisher, public company. Beckett Dickinson, public company, headquartered on the East Coast, both of them. Their largest center of population or concentration of employees is San Diego County, for both Thermo and BD. And I forgot which one's the biggest medical device company in the world, but one of them's the biggest. The other one's pretty damn big too. So, I mean, so we have these companies here, right? You got Teradata here, headquartered in Ohio, I think, but biggest concentration of employees right here. So there are plenty of companies, and I agree, to your point, Bruce, that LA is really focusing on media and advertising and what they're good at. And so if we're going to look at it, this is where digital health companies are going to come from, or medical device companies applying AI. Is the next social media company going to come from here? Maybe, but most likely it's going to be where all the the social media experts and investors are.
Do we need another one?
Not me, but who knows?
Travis? I just want to say, in the 90s, I used to, I'm sorry, Kristen. In the 90s, I used to give speeches that said economic development can't be based on wishful thinking, and a lot of it is. And Tristen raised the issue of incentives, and I guess, and the gentleman from Augmented Data talked about the lucrative job offers in the Bay Area. So it would be interesting for you to really hone in on the incentive issue, because it's really hard to compete with a Google or a Facebook unless you have a specific attractive opportunity for someone who spent 15 years, 20 years trying to get an education and then now needs a job and pay off student loans and all this other kind of stuff. So what really practical things should San Diego be doing? And I get the whole life sciences focus and the purpose and everything. I get it. I also get that we're probably the best place anywhere for the convergence of some of these industries and finding the new exciting opportunities that didn't exist before. But what are the practical things that San Diego should be doing today? Is it only talent? And if it's primarily talent, then what are the specific things we have to do to keep people here? And what other things do we need to be doing as well?
I have an idea. On that.
I lost a data scientist to a company in the Bay Area, and it was kind of heartbreaking because he was the best guy that I had, and we're a small startup. And so two things that I was just thinking as you were saying that data scientists are driven by data, right? And so and the other thing, one of the reasons this gentleman left is because he had a lot of debt from school. So one of the things was he needed a bigger salary to pay off that debt faster, and his parents he's from Jordan, and so his parents had, given him money to go to school and all this stuff. So I'm thinking, one, if you can figure out a way to forgive the school debt through the school system, or at least a stipend of sorts, so they stay here, that's an incentive. Unlock the data through the large life sciences company exclusively to those data scientists if they stay here again, because having access to that information for a specific group or startup that decides to stay here, it's like access to gold, right? They're going to geek out with this data. So I mean, those are two things.
Well, that
Here's
data
a thought.
bank idea.
Here's a question and a thought. Did you lose him to a big company or a startup?
medium-sized. No, not another startup. It was
Okay.
medium-sized.
I
I
mean,
mean, they're better, way better funded.
In some sense, that, I think, may be part of the angle here, if I can suggest something, which is, a lot of the ass sucking sound from north of the border is really, in fact, because they're big, healthy companies, and here, outside of the life sciences, you have Qualcomm, whose growth rate has tapered off significantly, so it isn't the rising star it was just a very few years ago. But the analogy I want to draw is to what Google itself does internally. Google is an entire ecosystem. Google has today 4,000 machine learning projects underway. And one of the things they've done is they've created a team, an internal consulting team of about 80 people that goes around to major product groups inside of Google. And it basically teaches them how to go deep learning, how to take their existing business and transform it using this technology. And needless to say, Google knows a thing or two about deep learning, so they can do this very effectively. But it is, in fact, a kind of regional economy. Google is sort of like San Diego. Mm-hmm. And to me, one of the big opportunities here is not just to say, oh, what do we do with startups? But what do we do with deep learning? And you can sort of imagine what would happen to the whole community if there was some analogous way to go into the lots of the big and medium-sized established companies and say, we will AI you. Mm-hmm. We will help.
What would it be?
Huh?
What would it be?
Well, it depends on what the kind of business it is. But there are lots of businesses that have, significant amount of data internally. They just haven't thought about how to exploit this new playbook, this new set of techniques. And if you did, in fact, have a whole set of established companies that had a strong AI dimension of what they were doing, it creates a much stronger job market. Mm-hmm. And you can't just think about the startups. It has to be sort of a complete demographic, of all the different ages and sizes of companies. Because the startups are to some extent a creature of what else is happening in the community. And so by really saying, San Diego is a place where AI is part of what everybody does, not just startups, I think it's really, really potent. And particularly given this emphasis on science here. Now, one of the things that some people don't appreciate about startups is that they are often not about technology leadership. They are about business model innovation. And it is not, and if you look at the average startup, particularly if you talk about cloud startups in San Francisco, and there are thousands of startups in San Francisco, there are more companies that are figuring out how to do, to put milk delivery in India online than there are people thinking about some fundamental form of science. And so in a sense, from a scientific, even from an engineering standpoint, they are trivial, but they are true innovations. So it says two things to me. One, when you look to the startup community in San Diego, don't just look for people who are doing better science, because that isn't the natural place for startups. Startups are naturally the ones who introduce the business models that established companies can't. And number two, it says you may be wanting to look at something other than startups, particularly in this obvious sweet spot, which is this intersection between AI and digital biology. And I think in particular, if you have some way of saying, we will bring AI into a whole range of life sciences sort of settings, that seems to be something that could really build some momentum and some signature characteristic that sort of is something that San Diego does better than anybody in the world, is how to make this transformation.
I would just, if I could just
I think one thing that you could ask, if you agree that this convergence of AI and life sciences represents an opportunity for San Diego in particular, I think, Tristen, one thing that you could do is ask, what are the opportunities or what are the problems? And so, for example, as a problem for investors, my understanding is that trying to invest in a startup that is doing some kind of AI application in life sciences is a problem for VCs because it's in this sort of no man's land. If you are a life sciences VC, you get nervous about the tech side of the deal. And if you are a tech VC, you're nervous about the life sciences side of the deal.
Absolutely.
And so there's got to be an opportunity, if you're an investor, to put together the knowledge that you need to make yourself feel comfortable about both sides of the deal.
So, real quick, the gentleman that made the point that he lost a data scientist, what we need is more money, right? We need more investors, whether it's angel, but really, frankly, institutional. We need more institutional investors to invest here so that there are more jobs. And Chris made a fantastic point that it's not just about the science. It's about, how are you going to make money? Is there business expertise, or is it just science? You can teach a robot to, go get the ball and, go fetch the ball, or is that a cat or a dog? But how are you going to make money? And so you really do have to think about the business application. And if anything, I would say San Diego isn't missing human capital on the technology side. San Diego's missing mid-level management.
Yeah.
That's what San Diego's missing. People that can help scale companies. That's our biggest human capital weakness, I would say.
We have 3 minutes or so to finish up. This is an exciting discussion. I'm sure we can go all night, but I would like to finish up and have everyone network a little bit. So let's do our final questions and finish up. The gentleman over here.
Yeah, I'm Deepak. I've been in San Diego for a while, but I did work in 60 countries with Qualcomm. Then I worked in, I've been to New York quite a bit, and all the other startup ecosystems. So one thing I loved about New York is the city's very progressive. They released everything to the startups and the tech community. So they have an open data initiative from ground up. And even in kindergarten or 5th grade, they started computing for kids. And one of the big things I find in San Diego that's a big issue for anything is data access. So there's a big institution called Scripps. They have a lot of data for life sciences startups. And then there's UCSD. Then there's also Sharp. And the reason I know this is because I know they have a lot of medical data. And they're all on 3 different systems, and they're on shared data. And Scripps just implemented Epic, which is a very old system out of Wisconsin, the EMR system, for $1 billion. And it's written in classic ASP. So it's 20 years old. I mean, in San Diego, isn't there a company that could have done that better? So, I mean, that's one thing I see in San Diego. And I have a lot of startups here that are doing very well. And we're doing very well. And all our customers are mostly outside. So a lot of San Diego startups don't even get an opportunity to work with San Diego companies. That's been a big issue I've seen in San Diego.
So can we all, and the goal of this event was actually not only to talk, but to act. I'm more of an action guy. Well, why don't we use some of the things that we've learned today? For example, access to data. Why don't we all collectively work towards enhancing San Diego's access to data for our local companies, for our local developers, for our data scientists? That's certainly going to attract them. That's certainly going to keep them here. And that will be very different from what anybody else does. Google can give them the data, of course, but they want to stay in San Diego. We just need to give them a good reason why they should. Or just compel them to. So let's talk about, in future conversations of course, let's talk about how do we persuade these large institutions to share their data with us and to maybe allow the Machine Learning Society to take a lead on this, to kind of coordinate the people, but really to create action and reaction in this space. So what do you guys think? Is that something that we should embark upon as a community? A vote?
I think that unfortunately the power is not in our hands. The power brokers are the laws that exist, for instance, HIPAA regulations or whatever, when it comes to a bunch of healthcare data that I've tried to get my hands on from different institutions and I can't do it. And it's the higher ups in these different organizations that hold the key to this, and that's not usually us. And so you can beg all you want, and they say, "I'm sorry, it's our policy. We don't give out our data." And like I've run into this with several big institutions all over the place.
I have a suggestion for that.
Please,
so we went through the Dream It Health program in Philly, and so what Independence Blue Cross and Penn Medicine did, which is a large payer and provider in Philly, the largest of each, and what they did was they partnered with Dream It Ventures. They created a fund. They selected about 10 startups. Obviously, hundreds or thousands applied to these things. And then there was a vested interest between the large payer, provider, Dream It Ventures, so you could see where, and so Dream It Ventures, so they all have a stake in our company, which is, I think it was a total of 8% equity divided amongst these, Dream It Ventures, Penn Medicine, Independence Blue Cross. So as long as there was an incentive for the payer and provider, and these were digital health companies, we were one of them, so, that's a model that worked really well. The longer conversation was whether the startups got a pilot, which, that was like, that'll be up to the startup to see how fast you can, get into the program or into a pilot program with the payer and provider. But it certainly worked for a lot of the companies that needed access, and that was one of the things that, maybe it's more like.
Great, let's talk afterwards. Please. I want to know more.
I would like to very quickly what Chris said. I think it can be very interesting because it's about education. If we have something that educate the companies to know what they can do with AI, like you say AIU, I mean you can organize this kind of meeting with one side the life science or the company and the other side the AI guy and try to, okay, this is what we can do for you. Because for a startup, it costs a lot of resource and money and time to go out, to evangelize, to explain, and so on. So if San Diego can have this kind of educational things, it can speed up the process.
And I think our community is pretty open to that, from what I've noticed. So I'm certain that this would be something that would work and is not out of the question. And San Diego is the right market for this type of approach and collaboration. So I want to put this meeting to a close. I thank you all for coming tonight. It was an incredible discussion, and I learned a lot personally. I think everyone here did a fantastic job of really just sticking true to this fireside chat paradigm. I really enjoyed it. We should do it again. Possibly for the next one we can do genomics and venture capital in San Diego. And deep dive into how the genomics world can be affected by data sharing and by some of the things that we discussed today. So thank you all for coming. I still want to network and have fun and finish all those drinks together, so let's do that. But I appreciate you all coming tonight.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Thanks. Sure. Thanks.
That was a lot of fun.
And I want to take a picture together.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.